Yeah, I'll just get the.
Hello.
There's about where we need it. Morning, Kent.
Hey, Kent.
Looks good. Hi. Looks good.
I don't know whether I can hear him yet or not. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Can you hear us, Kent?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. There.
Now it's seeing my Outlook cannot connect this over. Oh, it must have. There it goes.
Bingo. You got logged into that all right?
It's probably me.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, it is, because mine is still not connected.
Sorry.
Well, my bad. Say when you call.
See, it said not connected to my Outlook.
Oh, okay.
Okay, our microphones aren't in use again today.
Oh, so
I'm
it's
using what's called the conference microphone setting for Zoom, which means it's supposed to expand the microphone reach. It wasn't too bad last time, but hopefully it'll be a little better this time. So,
boy, this whole thing is a puzzle.
yeah, I don't think I've used, well, I know I haven't used the cable since I got this new computer. It's always been using the Wi-Fi.
You know what the volume is?
Oh.
Good, thanks.
So now I can't connect to this network. It's capital J, A-N.
Or it's J3.
A-N, or just,
No, let me look at it here. Oh.
I've got the Zoom password, but it's not.
J3FFCO 2018.
Then we have more.
And no exclamation point, but I think the C in CO is capital. Capital J, 3, lowercase f, lowercase f. Was it promising enough?
We'll see.
All right, good morning. We'll call this meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to order. I would like to acknowledge that we have people on with us from our Zoom connection as well. So welcome to our meeting.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Let me turn up the volume just a little bit. There we go. All right, first item of business on our agenda, we acknowledge the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Dimmitt. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to item number 2 on our list, meet with the county engineer. He is not in the office with us at this time. I don't see him online on. We'll wait just a few minutes for him as well. So we'll move on to discuss and consider providing support for workforce housing tax incentive program application for David Nagar subdivision, Forest Lake, and Janney Woods subdivision.
Josh, are you on here?
I do not see Josh Larrabee yet.
Let me text him.
Morning, Chauncey.
'Cause this is Josh's.
Okay.
Is there a camera on here?
Is anybody on here that wants to speak to this?
Well, I'm the developer who asked for the support, so my name is Joachim Klaas.
Okay, do you want to explain this? Josh said he'd be on, but he's not yet.
Yeah, so we want to use the Iowa Housing Workforce Development Tax Credits. We have announced this to people, saying like, look, if you want to build a house in Fairfield or in Jefferson County, then Iowa is going to subsidize part of the costs. And so we have 4 people that want to build, and we have one of our own lots that we're going to use to build a house. So that is in short what it is. I can give you the total square footage and budget. I don't know if it's required. Give you an idea, or what other information you would like.
Josh is getting on now so that he can explain the program.
Okay, well, thank you.
So basically, Josh Larrabee contacted me about putting this on the agenda, and obviously it'll, provide some housing, which is much needed. So he can explain the logistics of it, and what's needed.
Well, I got
For this application, it's a letter of support or resolution to move forward.
nice. And this thing lights up when I say something. Too back to speaker.
Unless you want to go on and come back to it. Yes, I think it's getting on right now.
Yeah, I still have not seen him yet. We still haven't had Scott show up yet. All right, well, we'll come back to this. Hopefully Josh will be online with us shortly. So let's move on to set a public hearing date and time for ordinance amending Jefferson County Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 5-30, establishing the Jefferson County Airport Hall Structures Ordinance. So, Chauncey, you're kind of on this one.
No.
Good morning. I think Pat's been taking a point on this. I would defer to him here.
Okay, Pat has now joined us, so let's go ahead and have Pat, you bring this up, please.
So this is an ordinance that has been on the books for decades. It relates to the FAA restrictions around airspace around airports. We have one for Fairfield's airport. We have one for Washington Airport because a small portion of the requirement kind of clips in the northern part of Jefferson County. As I've been working on recodifying all of our ordinances, it occurred to me that the airport has expanded in the last 20 years that I've been here, but this ordinance had never been amended or changed. And I didn't know if that was appropriate or not appropriate. So I was communicating with the local airport and the folks at City Hall, and Melanie Carlson kind of took the ball and ran with it, and got together with a consultant from the FAA to review the ordinance, because the city also has the same ordinance. And they suggested a number of changes, including some of the definitions, and the language has changed or evolved over time. Some of the numbers have changed. I think I sent you a kind of a marked up version that shows the things that have changed. Honestly, I cannot just explain to you what all the numbers and the ratios and everything mean. That's why we couldn't just make the adjustments ourselves. We needed some technical assistance, and being that it was Fairfield's airport, I reached out to them to help get that assistance. And this was the information that was provided back to us, the updates that were suggested. The one thing that has changed that you do have a little bit of discretion over is there's a section that deals with the airport, I can't remember what it's called, commission to evaluate variances, and how the folks and the different people from the community are appointed to that commission. I think it's 2 from the city, 2 from the county, and 1 mutually agreed upon by the other entities. So I think in the current version of the ordinance, it's 3 for the county and 2 for the city. But I think the way it's currently written makes a little bit more sense. The city had this on their Planning and Zoning Commission subcommittee meeting last week. I believe that at least the plan was to have the first reading of this ordinance on the city council agenda also for tonight. And we're hoping, well, hoping isn't the right word. I thought that it was appropriate to put the 2 ordinances sort of mirroring one another in terms of the track that they're on. So this is essentially, like I said, it's a technical amendment to an existing ordinance that I've always kind of wondered about for quite a while in terms of if it needed to be done and what it needed to look like. And I'm glad that we're able to present it to you today, particularly since, surrounding the city of Fairfield's airport, everything immediately surrounding it is unincorporated county. So when we're dealing with high structures and we're dealing with some of the provisions of this, it's all within our jurisdiction, at least for a while, in every direction around that airport. And so I think that it's maybe even more important that our version be up to date than the city's.
Okay.
Pat, hi, could I say something, please? This is Kent Boyum. Marshall City is also very close to the airport, so whether Fairfield or the supervisors would send me a copy, I'd appreciate it. I know that I worked with the airport a few years ago, potentially building a tower in Marshall City, and we were definitely within the range of the airport. We had to follow FCC regulations. So thanks. I just thought I should be alerted. Should I contact the city, or do you guys want to just send me a copy?
We can send it to you, and there's a copy on file at the auditor's office as well for anybody to review, but we'll definitely get you a copy.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right. Do we have a motion for approval?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for the ordinance amending Jefferson County Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 5-30 establishing the Jefferson County Airport Tall Structures Ordinance. So what we need 2 weeks out.
We need 2 weeks out, so it would be May 5th or June 15th.
Okay.
Meeting June 15th at 9 a.m.
I would second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for setting a public hearing for Jefferson County Airport Toll Structure Ordinances at June 15th, 9 a.m. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Derek, can I ask Pat a question?
Sure. Lee wants to ask you a question, Pat.
How soon, well, it's kind of a stupid question, but this Board of Adjustment, is it something that we should work in conjunction with the city and stuff to get this board in place? This is obviously new to us, and I'm wondering how fast we should move on this.
This board is actually in place because it's in the existing ordinance.
Okay.
The way that the board is made up is what is modified by this. Rather than 3 appointments from the county, there's only 2. There continues to be 2 from the city of Fairfield, and then the 5th will be appointed sort of mutually by the other members, essentially.
Okay.
Agreed upon. So that's how the 5 is the structure of how that board is, or that commission is made up, is what is modified.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So let's go back one item here to, because I noticed Josh Larrabee has joined us. So let's resume our discussion and consider providing support for workforce housing tax incentive program application for Davy Nagar subdivision and Forest Lake and Janie Woods subdivision. So Josh Larrabee, you're with us. You want to comment?
So I'll just give a little bit of an overview of the program at a high level. I know this, I don't believe the County Board of Supervisors has seen a request for consideration of supporting this particular program in the past, at least since my tenure here with FIDA. So the program is a state program called the Workforce Housing Tax Credit Program, and it's intended to incentivize workforce housing, which essentially, in my definition, is affordable housing that matches the wages in your area. So somebody who's making an average wage can afford that type of house. And I won't get into all the weeds about all the administrative rules, but what we have here is a proposal for, I believe, 5 new homes. And I'm not actually familiar with where 2 of these subdivisions are, but Johan can expand on those. What this does, this program does, it's a state tax incentive program that incentivizes developers to develop in rural Iowa. And that's most of Iowa's counties. 88 of the 99 counties are eligible for this program. And it's been a very successful program in Fairfield. A handful of developers have used it, and it's expanded the tax base for the city and the county, even when there's development, of course, in the that helps revenues for the county also. But these projects here on the agenda today are specifically county proposals for new houses. So what you would be considering, this letter of support is really at no risk to the County Board of Supervisors. It's essentially a letter of support. And the developer's on the call here today to answer any questions about the homes that he's proposing developing. But it's essentially showing that the local municipality is in support of these proposed homes or development.
And it's my understanding the developer needs this for his packet that he.
Correct, and it's just a show of support. It's no financial liability on our part. It just shows that we have confidence that these are going to be done this way.
That you are in support of workforce housing. I don't think it's taking a look at whether you the probability of it getting done at this point. And I say that because there is a component that does ask the local municipality, in this case it would be the county, to financially participate. We do not have that on the agenda today because I knew that you did not have a policy in place. So this does not, those are two separate items. I know that I talked to Dee a little bit about possibly discussing that in the future about the county looking at coming up with a local match program that the state looks for, but that's not being requested today.
And in-kind can also help, so when they work with some of our employees, that counts.
Okay.
So that, and it's,
So if the county is going to be asked to, or if the taxpayers are going to be asked to, what do you call it?
in-kind,
Well, not only in kind, but a financial contribution. Does the county have any input as far as, I'm not sure what it is, but, you know, do we have any kind of jurisdiction over the housing, not necessarily the style of housing, but,
Yes, I mean, the county attorneys would be best, but in general, you can set your own policy. So if the county is going in the future, not today, we're not looking at this, but let's say the county would be considering, you know, meeting that $1,000 match, which, you know, if we take a look at the numbers, the county would see their return on investment pretty quickly if a home was developed, right? You know, if you build a $150,000 home in the county, I don't know what the, off the top of my head, what the levy is, but I would say you would probably make your money back within a year with new property taxes, right? But in general, yes, the county can set up its own guidelines. If they have a developer come forward, the developer has to meet these guidelines. And that could be a minimum assessed value. That could be a minimum number of units. Of course, you know, you'd want them to work in compliance with the county sanitarian, I believe, Mr. Miller. So make sure they're following, you know, all regulation for sanitary compliance. So you can set your own guidelines, yes.
would these lots that are from Debbie Nagar and what is it, Jamie Woods, would the housing developments or the houses that were built there, would they qualify under this program that you're talking about from workforce housing, if there were restrictive covenants or housing association fees or anything associated with that, or does that make a difference?
I'm not sure I'm following you. I might ask the developer to come in, but can you clarify your question again? I'm not sure.
Well, I'm just saying that whether or not the development, these houses that we would be building would qualify under this workforce development if there were restrictive covenants and housing association fees, which there has been in these subdivisions before. There's been restrictive covenants. I didn't know if that was a qualifying factor or not for this incentive program.
Good question. So the answer is that it just needs to be affordable. And what the state, and I'm going to overgeneralize here, but what the state has done is they have set a limit on the cost of construction per home. And I might be off by $1,000 or $2,000 here, but a home cannot exceed, the construction cost cannot exceed $215,000 per home. By the state's definition, that's workforce housing. You know, that might be a little bit high, that number, right, for us here in rural Iowa. But in essence, what's proposed here are homes underneath that limit. So that's really what the state looks at. Of course, you know, I don't think they look at homeowners association fees. I don't think that's a consideration. They care about the construction cost.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So just to make sure we're all on the same page, the maximum out of pocket for the county is $1,000, and we can use part of that for in-kind.
Well, I didn't think we were discussing that today. Are we discussing that?
Well, it kind of came up, so.
Okay.
Well,
I guess the way I would respond to that, and as far as discussing it, is there a point in passing this resolution if we're not interested in contributing? And I'm not saying we're not, or that we are, I'm just asking the question. I mean, one kind of goes to hand, if you pass the resolution and you identify with this policy and you approve the policy, does that really not commit us to committing funds?
so I think that's a question I would like to ask maybe Pat McVan, if he would have some input on that for us.
So my basic answer is I'm not as familiar with the program as for example, Josh would be. What we received and what I reviewed was a copy of this support letter or resolution that really didn't get too far into the weeds in terms of these types of questions. So I think the type of programming, and I don't think it's like a CAT grant, for example, that requires a local governmental match. I think that there's, some discretionary, obviously will be some discretionary opportunities for you in the future, but I don't think there's anything required. So at least that's the way it has been presented to me. And so Josh or anyone else, if there's some other information that contradicts that, please let me and the board know.
It seems to me like it's a pretty low risk.
Yeah. As far as maybe if I may interject, as far as I understood in the application to get the subsidy, the question is, at least, I mean, the local letter of support seems to be, that's a condition sine qua non. But the question is asked, does the local government, does the local branch provide matching support? I don't think it has to be financial. It can be, for example, a support in terms of, we also give $1,000 tax credit on the first income taxes that have to be paid, something like that. So I don't think it has to be a financial support, but they do ask, like, is there a matching support? And I don't know without it if they approve it. It's not really clear for me for the application. Maybe if Josh can elaborate.
Well, my experience has been in the city, and I'll tell you what the city has done, which is no cash out of pocket. How the city has done this, just for example, is they have a property tax abatement policy in place. So if you build a new home, they have a certain property tax abatement you get for a few years, and that meets that requirement. So there's no cash out of pocket. Essentially, that's just the local match.
Right, and again, it seems like increasing the tax base will far outweigh the $1,000.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, in essence, then you have, you have a new improvement on the tax rolls for hopefully many, many years.
right.
Yeah, we're talking about $750,000 worth of construction in total. So,
You want to talk a little bit about the development? I think it would be helpful, and I don't know if I missed that earlier.
yeah, sure. So the Forest Lakes Devi-Nagar development is off Kelp. We've got 3 houses there, so 3 people that want to build houses. And basically, all of these, what happened was there was one person who, who owned the lot for several years but never did anything with it. And 2 more people that, the moment they got familiar with the construction system and with that possibility to get that grant, 2 more people jumped in, bought a lot over the last 2-3 weeks, and decided that they wanted to join. So this is really people who say, wow, with this subsidy, suddenly, you know, the house that we wanted to build comes in our budget, so we want to build it now. In Johnny Woods, one of the lots is a lot that we own, where we're really going to build also a house in order to, you know, offer it on the market later. And another lot is also a lot that was bought, same situation, the lot was bought last week, because the owner says, oh, with this subsidy, we really want to build a house. So that's kind of the situation.
I have just one other question, and I apologize for being such a pain, but, and Josh, either one of you may be able to answer this, but since it's a subsidized program, an incentive program for affordable housing, is there an income restriction? In other words, you can't exceed a certain income. Building affordable housing for somebody that makes $1 million a year makes no sense to me.
Yeah, with the state, with what's proposed here is sale of homes. There is no income limit. Really what the state is looking at, this program is not, yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question, because affordable housing can mean different things in different conversations. So this is not a subsidized program in terms of the owner is going to be receiving, you know, assistance for mortgage or rent or anything like that. The state is essentially looking at, hey, we need to really address the hurdles in rural Iowa, across Iowa in general, but particularly with this program this year. Let's help increase the housing in rural Iowa so we can attract more workforce to our rural communities to fill those open positions. Because we all know that housing is one of our top issues in rural Iowa in terms of being able to attract talent and retain talent in our communities. Because our economy, you know, has been expanding for many years, and our employers have been doing wonderful here locally. So this is specifically looking at the price point of the sale of the home. So it does not have any income restrictions for who is using the program. It's essentially put in place to create affordable workforce housing. So there's no requirements for income.
Thank you, Josh.
Well, clearly we know we have a housing shortage, and I'm gonna make a motion that we approve this resolution providing support of workforce housing tax credit incentive program application, and Darren will sign that as chair.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, so let's move back to meet with our county engineer and get an update on everything roadworthy.
I think I no longer need to be here, so I'm going to leave you. Thank you very much for approving the motion.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
So, motor grader operators and blading on gravel roads. They've also been blading for dust control. So, they hit it at some point, so they straighten it out, put it back. Lower, pair of box culvert on 145th. And mowing along the pavements, that's shoulder mowing. We're not restricted from doing ditch mowing and slope mowing, but for visibility, we mow on the shoulders because, I mean, you can have animal and deer.
Can't see rabbits either.
How about the rain the other day? Because how much did we get, 3 inches?
But that's not what we had on our age.
Because I know the ditches, we came to town, what was it, Thursday night after it rained, and I mean, it was overflowing out east of town, but by the time we came home, a lot of it had gone down.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of rain came down fast, and then we had some saturation from smaller earlier rain. One thing I always wonder about is what are the creeks gonna look like if they had rain like that upstream in the next counties? I don't know that I saw anything.
I remember 2 or 3 years ago, we had a conversation about some stop signs potentially at Atlantic City. Evidently, the Atlantic City Council met the other day and wants to renew that conversation. And I know, Kent, you're on there. I drove out there after we talked, and there's a couple spots. Is there anything against putting a stop sign on it?
Stop signs are to be used for speed control. We also talked with Ken about it. We also talked about the sheriff's office coming out, setting up one of those, put their sign that shows if you're going exceeding the speed limit and do slower speeds. Of course, I've also seen people come flying out of the.
Oh, we're talking about what, 170th, 175th?
John Estel.
John Estel,
So 170th?
yeah.
Yeah, 170th.
And Jasmine, and then what was the other intersection?
One is at coming out of that campus. It's Invincible America Drive. Used to be Iris and 170th. That's the primary request. And the other was actually at Juniper was the original name of North, and South it's named as it comes into Marshy Vedic City, Marshy Center Avenue. So that's also at 170th.
The primary one is the one coming out of the former Pundit area, right?
Yes, yes. And we've had a request from a resident there that I don't know how he clocked it, but he said there was somebody driving 80 miles an hour. So coming down that hill. I don't know if you guys can hear me. It's cutting out a little bit from your
Yeah,
side.
we can.
We can hear you.
There's also a man who's legally blind right at that intersection, right, that house. Let's see, what is it? Padmavani Lane. It's one road east of the Rukmapura Park Hotel. And they pick up their mail and they have to walk across the street, to get mail and things. Nobody should be driving 80 miles an hour anyway. It's a 45-mile-per-hour zone. We did try this activity with the sheriff a couple of years ago, and there were a couple of tickets, and had, at least from the homeowners and the hotel owner Chris Johnson, who's the city council member, nothing's really changed. So I think what the city council thinks is that since it's in the city, they have the right to request that a stop sign is put there, and I don't even know if we need to ask the engineer, but we're doing it because we have a 2080 agreement with you, of course, for signage and maintenance of those roads. But so that's what it is. We've tried the effort, the solution you gave us 2 years ago didn't do anything. Speed bumps could be put there, which would
No.
which would be terrible, but we can't just have a road where it's 45 miles an hour and people are going 50, 60, 70, whatever. I don't know if they go that fast, but so
I've also noticed there in town that people come out of the side streets that have stop signs there and they don't even slow down. Other than they have to slow to turn. But that's it.
Well, that's my question, Scott. If it's inside the corporate city limits of Vedic City, they can put a sign up anywhere they want, can't they?
Well, according to the 2080 agreement, we maintain the signs and determine things like speed limit and at one time they put a sign up. Well, there's another aspect to it on the sight distance and people speeding through, not being able to see. traffic sitting there. I've had people ask me, why there's so many trees and bushes and signs and things out in the right of way that limit visibility to traffic or people coming out from the streets and driveways. And I just told them that the county, I mean, other than the signs, the county and maybe the box culvert, the county maintains the 22 feet of pavement, and it's up to, for things like trees. I mean, we put shoulder rock on, but for things like trees, it's up to the city to keep those down and maintained, and any trails that you have in the right of way, any sidewalks, anything like that, which there aren't any sidewalks that I'm aware of. So there's some effort that could be made there, and one of the parties asked me, said, well, there was some bushes cut shorter and maybe a tree removed, but there's still plenty of obstructions to visibility out in the 70-foot wide on that side of the road right away that are not being taken care of.
So, just to follow up, Beatty City changed the names of their streets inside their city. You know, so that you're going, and I'm just, you know, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but you're going through and it's one name, and then it goes through the Beatty City, and it's another name, and it comes out the other, and then it goes back to the name before it went into Beatty City. And all I'm saying to me, or what it says to me, if they could do that, then they could put a stop sign inside the city limits. Now, if we want to modify the 2080 agreement that says that any sign inside the corporate city limits of Beatty City, or any other city for that matter, is their responsibility to maintain and replace and take care of. But I don't know that, and Pat, if you're still online, jump in here. I don't know that we have any authority inside the corporate city limits of Beatty City as to far. Now, if they want to put a stop sign outside of the corporate city limits in a county, that's a different scenario. But if they're running stop signs or speed limit signs, and they want to say that you got to stand on your head when you're going through there, it seems to me that's within their jurisdiction.
We only take care of the signs and like setting speed limits and things on the county through roads. We don't do anything whatsoever on any of the other streets.
But 170th is actually, a portion of 170th is actually in the corporate city limits of Beatty City.
I agree.
And they changed the name of that.
Which,
well, that's fine.
That's not a manual, you know, traffic control devices
Granted,
situation.
but by the same token, this was a state highway at one time that had stoplights on it, going through the city limits of Fairfield, which is a reasonable and prudent thing to do as far as that part of it goes. I don't know, Darren, you've got infinitely more experience in this than I do, because I don't have any. It just seems to me that from a logic perspective, they have jurisdiction inside their boundaries.
That's the way it seems to me, and within context of the city of Fairfield, they take care of all their signage and speed limits and that within their corporate limits. And the streets that have different names here that continue into a road that goes on into the county is kind of standard around here. So it's not unusual for a city to be able to rename all their streets or whatever that they want to do within inside of it, and it shouldn't affect us. Having an agreement that says that we are to put up signs and maintain the signs on all those streets within that corporate limits.
No, we don't do that.
We don't do that, okay, because that was a misunderstanding that I thought.
Through county through roads.
Right.
And
now
it's kind of like the state highway going through.
Right.
I mean, does the city have everything to say about the state highway coming through?
Highway 1, no. The city doesn't have much say on Highway 1 as far as signage or speed limits or that kind of thing.
And that's not an exact comparison because, I mean, it's a county through road, it's a city street too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will readily admit, in regards to 170th, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, no disrespect to it, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to turn off, or is it Juniper, and head west on 170th and go 30 feet down the road, and now I get to the corporate city limits and I have to stop. And then do I have to stop going out of the corporate city limits?
I think what Kent was saying,
No.
the main sign is kind of on the west end, right?
There's one sign right on the west end. It's in the city limits. It's both sides of the road are in city. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, Pleasant Plain did it. Up there on 110th.
And that way,
They put a stop sign right in town.
right, and the sheriff's office told me at one time they won't enforce that.
Well, that's a separate issue. I'm just saying that they did. As inconvenient as get out when you're going through, but I understand the thought process behind it when they did it. I just don't think it's under our jurisdiction. Darren, if I'm wrong.
No, because it's a county through road, and because we have 20.
So the
Because there's funding involved too.
Right.
And,
So if they put up a stop sign, is any adverse effect to funding?
well, I mean, if they put up a stop sign that's unenforceable and not according to the manual uniform traffic control devices and things like that,
But it
if
won't.
somebody goes through it, who's gonna enforce it?
That's not my question. My question is, does it affect funding?
In a way, I mean, we get a certain amount of funding from the city because at the last census, they were, I don't know, 1,500 or something like that. So we came up with a new 2080 agreement, and then it involved some funding coming to county because they did all the money first. And for us to continue to maintain the street, things like that, I mean, we have an agreed to amount if we would still, according to the agreement, put up any signs that would be put up on through routes only.
So let's say, and I know this is not an agenda item, so it's not like we can take action, but because this was brought to my attention, we won't have to have a discussion. So let's say process-wise, Pat, I know we need to put something on the agenda, but if we propose it's within their city limits and they can put up the sign they want in their city limits, could they then in fact contract with the county to provide the sign, or would they have to go somewhere and get their own sign?
Well, we provide the signs to put it up, and generally we just say it costs this much to put it up, and the city's paid.
And the city would reimburse you?
Right, so like the John Estill Drive signs, I mean, they reimburse us for the cost.
Presumably, the funding arrangement is going to change, and we'll probably have to redo the 2080 agreement anyway after the 2020 census.
And then the funds would come directly to the county, and then if we disperse any to them.
You know, I'm not trying to be argumentative here, although it does appear that way. I just looking at it strictly from a jurisdictional standpoint, I don't know how we can control I understand what you're talking about it being a through road. There's a lot of roads that go through Bay City that are county roads. Iris is one of them. You know, Kent and I have had conversations, and other city officials have had conversations about, I wasn't particularly excited necessarily about changing the name of the road, but I was more concerned that emergency response folks were aware of the changes and to make sure that when we were doing things out there that the 911 numbers, whatever you call it, correspond and everything, so that when they're responding to a need out there, that they're not wasting time trying to, because the streets aren't safe. We've had those conversations, but still, it seems that in the past, if precedent means anything, and Pat's always telling me whether it's precedent, if precedent means anything, they've had control, and while we may or may not agree with whether they put the stop signs up, like I said, I'm not particularly enamored with the one that's in Pleasant Plain. But and whether it's enforceable or not, that's outside my area too.
I was told it's not. And there's been some stop signs that have been put up on the edges of small towns in the county, and there's, and at least one that I can think of has been taken down too.
But when we go on road tours, we stop at that stop sign.
Sure,
I mean, we have a 2080 agreement with the sheriff's department, so we'll talk to the sheriff and we'll talk to the DOT if we need to. We are a city for almost 20 years. And I think it's pretty.
At this point, as Dee indicated, it's not on our agenda, so we'd have to discuss and consider item.
We're just discussing that now.
Yep, that's right. So,
and Monterey Vedic City requested putting up signs on litter, and so I've discussed that with our sign person, and we think that some of those signs could potentially be put up on the back side of a no passing zone sign. It's already on the correct side of the road, and the back side of a no passing zone sign.
That makes good sense.
Yeah, so we thought of
same post.
we did. I don't know from our last discussion, how many of those signs do you want up? Or are you going to purchase and put up? Or I mean,
I don't know. I mean, we'll buy them from the prison industries. That's who's going to make them. Your request was just to see if they qualify to be placed in the Iowa DOT's appropriate place along the road. I'll have to ask the city clerk because it's sort of her project, but maybe 4 to 6 signs, maybe,
that's probably what I was thinking.
Within 3 miles or something, 3 miles of road, maybe something 2, 3 in each direction, somewhere in that zone. So I don't know. There's a specific place where it's actually the same area where I think the person that spoke to you about the access for the stop signs is the same person requesting the littering sign. So we got one person who wants a couple of activities in their neighborhood. So
if you want 4 to 6 put up, go ahead and acquire them.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Like on the no passing zone signs, we can put those signs up anytime, but on anything that would have to have its own new post, you either need to get the post put up right away or just wait on it till later, because we'll be switching over to striping on our sign and striping truck pretty quick, in a week or 2. And I don't know how soon those signs can get here. I
don't know either. I mean, probably a few weeks to a month, something to just, we do street signs on the other streets as Scott had mentioned. So we do have some posts around in the warehouse and different things, but it usually doesn't take more than a couple of weeks to get a street sign, for example, and posts. So we'll talk to you about that. Okay. And so I'll give the feedback to the city council. If you need a resolution or a motion from the city council to put in those stop signs, we'll do that. But they've already given me their intention to talk to all of you about it. So
I think that's a Pat question. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I think the city would have to modify their ordinance, because I know the city of Fairfield, when they put up a new sign or they change an existing sign, they have to change the existing ordinance that covers the signs for those particular intersections throughout town. So that would be just my.
Okay, that's our business then. Yeah, a street ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay, appreciate it.
I have one question for Scott concerning the corner of Osage and Glasgow Road. The property on it would be northeast corner of that intersection still has all that dirt piled up around that blocks the view when you come down Osage going south and are turning or looking to the east on Velasco Road. It still is a sight problem. Is the property owner was talked to last year about this, and they said they were going to have that all down and gone in the winter. And
Well,
now
they took the part that was more or less along Velasco off. The dirt that's there now is along Osage.
okay,
And we said we would haul it away, but I think he was planning on using some of it to put around the house still, so.
okay. Could you check with them then and find out whether they use some of it for around the house and whatever's left is ours to haul away? Is that what the agreement was?
We don't have an official agreement. We're gonna be looking to get a site distance easement there.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that would prohibit plowing, and then we'd have to move some different things around, do some ditch modification and things like that to make it far more visible than it is now.
Yeah. So, okay. That was just something. I'd been out there a couple of times and noticed that it hadn't looked much different than it did last year.
I went and looked at it last week.
Okay.
And contact him tomorrow, because there's at least one thing that's in the way that will be decided today.
Okay. So, all
All
right.
Just real quick to follow up on Darren's request, we made any, or at this point, inroads into the Pekin School Road?
Brad talked to a couple of people from the company, like a foreman and the head of the company, and they're gonna take a look at it, they said. I mean, I also hear that they're behind because of weather mostly and all these other contracts we got, and they worked Saturday this past weekend, and they sent another crew in to pave the street out in front of the shop engineering building, 8th Street.
Yeah, that's part of the city's contracts with them.
Goes around the corner,
Mm-hmm.
so all of the skip coat there, and then they're supposed to do 8th Street to the south of Stone or whatever street that is through there. And then there's also, today I noticed they were working on 12th Street. They were doing some work on our road still, and had the road blocked off. It's like, all of a sudden it was kind of like I mean, everywhere you went, there were trucks sitting there parked in the way, and eventually got out, but they had it totally closed off in one direction, so.
So when are they gonna, you think they'll get back to you, or back to Grant?
I don't know.
Okay.
He probably will be asking them today, but.
All right.
Keep it up on what the progress is.
So just real quick there, one other thing, I won't be here next Monday, Scott, regarding that subdivision request. I don't know if he's got any information to you that you need to, or not, but if that comes up, you can explain to Dee and Darren what's going on.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I was thinking I have some more things on this list. Like, we've sprayed dust control on Brookville Road, previously it was long.
I stopped to think for a second, wait a minute, we just paved it, why?
Walden Mitt and Nutmeg. And then, as far as the asphalt paving goes, Packwood Road is done. Totally. Brookville Road, the HMA is done. and they're subsailing, well, they're sailing a strike. But the edge lines are not done, and some of the shoulder work's still being worked on. And they're moving to Pleasant Plain Road. And I just mentioned there was a separate door screw that came in to do the city's work.
Yep, okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott. Let's move to discuss and consider policies needed for CDBG grants.
We're gonna table that and move that forward. It's a work in progress. It's coming, but it's a lot of, I wanna have it all ready before it gets here and parts keep modifying.
Okay, so then we'll go on to make committee reports. Lee, do you have any committee reports?
At 10:15 transit meeting on Thursday, we updated our position on the city transition, or the transition between transit and the city's fixed routes. It's moving good. That's probably not the proper terminology, but it's moving well. It's coming together pretty much seamless. The city has fulfilled all of our requests up at this point. There's still the question of $400,000 in transportation funding that they have sitting there that they agreed to transfer. We just have to, work through that. Not a big deal in terms of it's all a go. Area 15 regional planning meeting. We discussed changing. I don't know exactly how to explain this, but there is some areas that we're working in because of the virus concerns and stuff. We're looking at having to restructure some loans, I guess you'd say. But the other thing is that we're eligible for an additional $1 million that will be allowed to, if we receive it, which I think we will. We approved the, what do you call it, where Chris Bowers writes the grant, or whatever. That will give us additional funds to loan out.
Is this for the emergency funds?
Yeah, we can do it at no interest or anything of that nature. And when those funds come back in, then they will be revolving loan funds with no restrictions. So that's a positive in that regard. Which Chris acknowledged your food grant and all that sort of thing. So that was basically what I had. We are ordering 3 new buses for the fixed routes. I do believe that, we got $2 million, transit did, for employees, that sort of thing. And what that'll do is that'll allow us to pay our employees, and then the money that we normally would have used for that, we can roll over and we can buy buses with it. Plus, because the city is now no longer going to be running the fixed route service in the paratransit, it appears from the DOTs talking to us that we'll receive their $1.6 million. So that will allow us to move forward on a lot of buses that we would have had to have waited because of the way that the process works. But anyway, that's what I had.
Okay. Dee, do you have any committee reports?
Had a workforce development meeting, worked on budget. And by combining, we'll basically have more money to use for programming and less for administration, which was the reason for that. CBB committee meeting, just working on some reopening guidelines, processes, and that was the main thing last week. Have Pathfinders tonight.
Okay. I just have a meeting coming tomorrow. DCAT is meeting on the first Tuesday of June, as we had in past months. We're still continuing to do that by Zoom because the facility that we have. It's kind of unpredictable, the number of people that will be in attendance at the meeting. So social distancing is a consideration for where we would have met up in Brighton at the City Hall meeting room up there. So we're still going to continue in that fashion. And that's pretty much all I had. I didn't have any actual meetings last week to attend, so.
I did have a question regarding June 16th, the spotlight. I don't even know who's up, but the question I had was, that's what I wondered.
Yeah, I did the last one, but I can do the next one.
No, that's
Unless
fine.
you wanna do it.
I just wasn't sure whether or not after the primary, if there was some leeway in
I don't think so, I'll check.
Yeah, I think that goes until
the general.
After the
August.
general.
I think you go through the primary. Once the primary's done, then you can still have radio access without giving radio access to your competitors until you get to August. That seems
I'll
to
check
me
with Tammy.
that,
So
yeah,
I'll do
she
it.
would. Yeah. Okay.
That's the question I had, so.
All right. I don't see any members of the public other than Kent Boyram online with us. Would you like to make any comments? This is a period for public comment.
Just thank you for your time. I see you guys are back in the building.
Yeah.
Are you going to continue with Zoom connections also for some time? Do you like it?
I want to try to get these posted up onto YouTube through the Fairfield Media Center. And so I think we're pretty much going to always have a way to access this meeting via Zoom coming from here forward. So
Great.
I'm working on it a couple of years. It just took a virus to make it work.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Sort of some silver lining out of some very bad situation. So that's
okay.
great.
Do we have any comments from
Thanks a lot.
anybody else in here?
Sure.
Scott, Klein?
Yeah, well, and for the nuisance situation, I monitor, I've told you before, I monitor the DNR stuff because I'm the chair of the county engineers committee on the DNR, at least one of the DNR committees. And then, so anyway, I was looking at this particular litigation report, and it's has to do with junk hauling removal and burning, and it says that the illegal disposal of solid waste, it's illegal to dispose of it anywhere other than at a permitted facility. So if we have any, well, we're gonna bury it here or put it in a basement foundation or something like that, that seems to me that is illegal. And then, solid waste observed in this particular situation was construction and demolition waste, tires, metals, plastic, household waste, shingles, and appliances. This person, company was hired to dispose of all the waste on his property, and what they chose to do was bury about 90% or more of it on site, which is illegal. And then they also did open burns. So I made a copy of the report in case anyone want to check it out.
Okay, let's move on to allow claims and approve reports.
So move.
Second?
I have a motion from Nimitz, second from Sanders. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. No further discussion on nuisance properties?
Nope.
No? Okay, so that completes our agenda for the day. I would to adjourn the meeting. Second by Sandquist. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion